Hi everyone, I'm Lana and this is Lana Yuen Reviews, and today we are reviewing one of my most anticipated films of the year, Evil Dead Rise. While I tend to lean more into the fun and campy stylings of Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, I ended up appreciating the more serious tone of 2013's blood-soaked remake. And after seeing the trailer for Evil Dead Rise, it looked like much more of the same, but possibly a return of that fun, campy spirit I've missed so much. Evil Dead Rise stars Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie, her cool tatted mom turned deadite, Lily Sullivan as Aunt Beth, and little Nell Fisher as Cassie. For this newest entry in the Dead series, we follow a mother of three being evicted from her apartment after a recent split from her husband. Her distant groupie sister decides to stop by when an unexpected earthquake occurs, unleashing a hidden evil under their building. And then it goes downhill from there. I mean, like way downhill. So, does this film rise to the occasion, or is it dead on arrival? Let's find out. But before we do, this is a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, well, I bloody warned you. Setting the bulk of this film in a derelict, low-income apartment complex was both visually interesting and allowed the film in its own unique setting. If I had to sit through another cabin in the woods scenario, I would have literally died. Combine this with wonderfully executed cinematography, moody lighting, and ear-splitting sound design, open up now, and you've got the pieces in place for a roller coaster ride of carnage. The motherly narrative works surprisingly well. On one hand, you've got the cool, laid-back, loving mother of three, and on the other, this reckless, prodigal guitar tech who's just mortified by responsibility. It's a great setup with an eventually very satisfying payoff. I do, however, wish we could have gone a little bit deeper into the sister relationship, but it's an Evil Dead film, so let's get to the soul-sucking. The standout for me, hands down, was our main baddie, Ellie. Even without the makeup, she looks like she was born to play a demon mommy. And I mean that in the best way possible, just in case Alyssa's watching. When she leaps out of the bathtub and lets out that horrifying screech, you feel it in your bones. She brings a physicality to the role that we've never seen before. As expected, we get loads of little nods to other Evil Dead films. From the opener, the iconic shaky camera flying through the woods, to the lights behind the elevator buttons slowly filling up with blood, much like the light bulb from Evil Dead 2. Or the subtle change of the chainsaw's color from red to the yellow of Ash's Delta 88. And as fun as the violence can be, and it is very fun, I was actually surprised at how carefully they handled those slow, creepy moments. My favorite scene was when Danny discovers the absolute hell he has unleashed by slowly spinning the record on his turntable. It was possibly the longest moment of physical and psychological torture in the whole film, in the most brilliant way. What I found really interesting was after 5 movies and 1 really groovy TV series, Evil Dead Rise actually expands on the lore of the Evilverse. We don't just have 1 Book of the Dead, we have 3.
Nobody said anything about 3 books.
When Danny discovers this newest book, I actually had that feeling of childlike wonder. Like, what is this book? Did the Necronomicon always have teeth? Is this something completely new? I was totally transfixed. Now, the cover isn't as menacing as the Necronomicon, but it was still full of large graphic illustrations instead of those ancient writings. It sort of made it like a graphic novel, like a curses for kids. As a child of the late 80s, and I mean the very late 80s, I love to see that focus on practical effects. Every time I see a digitally added blood spurt or an overly designed CG monster, I die just a little bit inside. But Evil Dead Rise has animatronic talking heads, actors floating on strings, and green projectile vomit. The stuff that classic horror is made of. We love to see it. Cast-wise, I really didn't connect with, well, any of the characters. Everyone did a great job at acting scared, but across the board, they felt rather flat. Even Beth. I know it's god near impossible to find an actor who can match the charisma, not to mention the chin size of the iconic Bruce Campbell.
Groovy.
But you need a protagonist to like, and Beth was merely just kind of there. Until she grabs a chainsaw in the final showdown and says, "Come get some." Then apparently she's Bruce Campbell. I literally thought she was possessed. It threw me off completely. I was very confused. I was surprised that they chose to kill off the 2 older kids and turn them into deadites, and pretty good ones too. So I give them some credit for that. But at that point, you only have the youngest kid and the final girl, which meant the danger was basically over, way before we got to the last act. I also had mixed feelings on the final boss, the amalgamation of all the deadites together. Like the thing with its many arms and legs, it was pretty freaky, and I liked that as a concept. But on the other hand, it was such a convenient way of disposing of the overwhelming threat against Beth and Cassie. Like, the movie was just getting good. They were finally overwhelmed by all these demons. How are we gonna handle this? Oh, you know what? Let's just stick them all together and throw them in the wood chipper. Done. As much as I enjoyed the deadites, they seem to be missing that extra and very crucial ingredient, that unadulterated crass that makes them, well, deadites. In the original films, the deadites weren't just creepy, ghoul-like, bloodthirsty zombies. They were fun-loving sadists. They just relished torturing Ash both physically and psychologically. They were so delighted by their own maliciousness, they would laugh maniacally in between hurling curses at him. Where's the fun? Where's my talking deer head and my laughing lamp? I love that shit. I also found the foreshadowing of the kills way too telegraphed. Stephanie, the vampire steak doll, the conveniently operational wood chipper in the parking garage. Like, why is that even there? The close-up shot of the scissors underneath the couch. I mean, look, it's fine that they set up for the eventual payoff, but those items are just so blatantly for killing. It was a literal vampire steak, sharpened to a point. One of my biggest personal disappointments was the cheese grater sequence. I was so excited for it. I saw it in the trailer. I thought, sick, that's gonna make so many cool skin ribbons. Like, imagine the gore, imagine the effects. I was excited. Maybe too excited. It excited me. But in the actual film, Beth gets tapped on the leg by the cheese grater, which lifts to reveal tiny scratches. Nothing. And then they go back to stabbing. It was like that. I was so disappointed. It was such a good idea, and yet, like so many moments in Evil Dead Rise, they just didn't take it far enough. With this more serious tone, those few attempts at humor just seemed off to me. The original director, Sam Raimi, is a master at balancing humor and horror. He can flip a switch from terror to screwball in a snap. But when Deadite Mommy bites out the neighbor's eye and then projectile spits it into someone else's mouth, it's an obvious callback to the original Evil Dead, but up until this point, the film was playing things pretty non-campy. It was fun, but it didn't fit that somber escalation up to that point. So now that we've established that Evil Dead can be just as gory and sinister in a setting besides a cabin in the woods, let's talk about that ending. It took me 2 days to realize the girl possessed in the very end is the same girl possessed in the very beginning. 2 days. And you know where that revelation led me? To the realization that if the next film picks up where this one left off, you know where we are? We're back at the motherfucking cabin. And why? Take, for example, the hysterical adventure that is Ash versus the Evil Dead series. Ash is driving across the country, killing deadites, fighting alongside Xena Warrior Princess, and saving the world again and again. It's fucking glorious. It's Evil Dead through and through, and they never step foot inside a log cabin. Let this be the film that takes evil to the world. Overall, while this is not my favorite of the Evil Dead franchise, it's absolutely worth a watch for any horror fan looking for a bloody good time. This really ratchets up the gore and the violence and the intensity that we've been missing in modern horror flicks over the past couple years. Maybe since the last Evil Dead remake? I mean, I for one enjoyed it, but not necessarily as an Evil Dead movie, just sort of on its own. It was creepy, it was slow, it was somber, it was very dramatic, and those long holds were really cool. It's not something you see in Evil Dead, and unfortunately wasn't as funny either. But it was good. So, what did you think of Evil Dead Rise? Will you be taking your mom out to see it this Mother's Day? Do you think that the next film will pick up right where this one left off? Where do you think that'll be? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, shop smart. Shop S-Mart. You got that? Are we rolling right now? Stars Alyssa, Sutherland. So, does this, the cheese grater. Obviously, there's a B in that word, did you know that? Takes the eyeball out of the neighbor's head and give me some sugar, baby. What?
That was great.